Thank you so much. It's amazing to be here. It's amazing to be part of this festival and to read with such distinguished writers. And I'm really grateful to Richard, Chris, Yvonne, the whole Words Aloud crew, and the library people for housing this evening. And thank you all for being here tonight. So, because I've never read No Sound before, and because I may never read No Sound again, who knows, I thought I would do sort of a cross-section of poems of mine from the last 20-something or another years. So I'm going to start off with, read a bit from my most recent book, Motel of the Opposable Thumbs. I specialize in books with stupid titles. I grew up in North End of Toronto. I don't know if any of you know that area, and there was this mall called Yorkdale Mall, Yorkdale Shopping Center, and it was like the Taj Mahal of North York. Whoops. This is called the food court. You could get anything down there in the food court: egg rolls and chicken balls, spaghetti banquet burgers, pizza with pepperoni, tuna sandwiches, souvlaki. It was like you had the whole world at your fingertips, my dad used to say. You could travel from continent to continent without ever getting on a plane. So Murray and Ken went down the escalator first because I was moving slower since my arms were full. I was still near the top when they reached the bottom, and I saw them step out into the food court and look around, their eyes wide. On the escalator, which was moving stairs, you could just stand there, not moving your feet, and then you would be downstairs. But I guess the problem was I was a bit impatient, eager to catch up to Murray and Ken, and I took a few steps down and stumbled a bit, and I dropped everything. I watched it all bounce down the moving stairs of the escalator: my book bag, my records, and my dad's wooden coffin. Murray and Ken heard the racket and saw all that stuff coming down, and me regaining my balance and running after it. The people in the up escalator stared at me as they went past. When I caught up, Murray and Ken each had one end of my dad's coffin. They flipped it. It had landed upside down. I always drop that, I told them. Murray put my records and my book bag on top of the pine box, and we wandered from one food booth to the next. Ken got a tuna sandwich, Murray got souvlaki, and I got spaghetti, which was also my dad's favorite, which was probably why I got it. I showed them my records while we ate, and Murray grabbed the Linda Ronstadt one from my hands and looked at the cover where she was sitting on a bale of hay with her guitar and wearing a bonnet. "She's so beautiful," Murray said. "I hope I get a girl like that." I'm going to jump ahead to a couple of new unpublished poems. Here we go. I love poetry. Aw, I'm in good company. I hate poems that contain the word mortal, the word angel, the word liminal, the word beauty, the word scent. Mortal coil is particularly loathsome, though Eddie Coyle was mortal is passable. I hate poems that mention Perseus, Heracles, Hephaestus, Infestus, Hydrochloroxidius, but I like hideous, rancid, gizmo. Oh, Orpheus is okay if it's in a poem by Mark Strand. Eclogue, blech. Epilogue, pretty good. I hate the word ekphrastic so much it makes me hate ekphrastic poems, except for Ron Padgett's Joe Brainerd's painting Bingo, which is the best poem ever written. I met Joe Brainerd once to interview him and was delighted he had never heard of Margaret Atwood. I hate poems that contain the phrase "I love," unless they are written by Lisa Jarnow, and I love Lisa Jarnow's poem, Lisa Jarnow. I hate poems that want to teach me something. Epigraphs from Isaiah, Leviticus, and Dana Goya are non-starters. But I once offered Alice Burdick, Jamie Forsyth, and Lance Larocque $200 to start up a photocopied mag of Nova Scotia poetry. Another time, I cut off part of my thumb with an X-Acto knife. I hate myself for loving poetry. I love myself for hating poetry. I hate poems about poetry. I don't know how many of you have read books published by the Canadian micropress Harlequin Enterprises. They publish like 100 romance novels every month. and a whole bunch of action adventure. I worked there I explained it in the poem, actually. So it is about that experience. It's called The Dot Was Red. In 1992, I read how I could put a dot somewhere I looked a lot, and every time I looked at that dot, I would remember to... I worked at Harlequin Enterprises then, copy editing romance novels. I lived in a tiny cubicle there, and I had a phone, and I had a computer, and I put a little sticker in the form of a red dot on my phone. I must have seen that dot several hundred times a day, and every time I saw it, I remembered to... If you would like further information about my tenure at Harlequin Enterprises, you can reference an old poem of mine called Around the Building, in which I talk about things that really happened and also things I made up. One thing I really liked about that job was bumping into Glenda at the subway station, where we both waited for the same bus. Glenda worked across the road for a record company. Plus, she wrote songs and played guitar, and she shared some of those songs with me. Glenda had red hair. We once went to see Kiss of the Spider Woman together. When we stepped off the bus, Glenda went to her building and I went to mine, where the first thing I saw when I reached my cubicle was the red dot. Immediately, I was reminded to... One guy we worked with had a party in his apartment. He invited us all to come. He didn't have any food or drinks for his guests. There was half a chocolate cupcake in his fridge and he ate it. I went out to the store and bought 2 big bags of potato chips. I resented that he didn't reimburse me for them. At one point, some of us were out on his balcony and he was inside vacuuming his living room. At Harlequin, I edited 200 books about love and about killing. The love books were temptations, romances, historicals, suspenses, desires. The books about killing were Mac Bolan, The Executioner, Deathlands. I developed crushes on 3 women at Harlequin and wanted to kill one man. I watched the York Mills bus pass by every 20 minutes on the street below. The dot on my phone was red. So I was sitting having lunch this afternoon, and I had all my books on my table because I was choosing what I was going to read. And this old guy shuffled on by on his way out, and he stopped and said, "Hey, what you reading?" And which is not like that. What was that comedian in the States where he's sitting in like Tennessee or something, and he's reading, and someone comes up and says, "Looks like we got ourselves a reader." But that didn't happen. He said, "What are you reading?" And I said, "Well, these are my books." "Oh, what kind of books are they?" "Poetry," I said. He said, "Oh, poetry. I never got into poetry. I never got interested in poetry." I said, "Well, let me show you one of my poems. We'll see what happens." So I read him this poem from my book, A Hamburger in the Gallery. Glod. And he said, "That was pretty good." And then he left. So I might have converted somebody in Owen Sound. Who knows? Maybe I'll read one more poem from this book, Self-Portrait with a Penny. Did I pick up the penny? Was I so cheap I picked up... penny, by the way, was this coin that used to exist that was worth 1/100th of a $1 bill, which is a thing that used to exist before they replaced it with a coin. Okay, Self-Portrait with a Penny. Did I pick up the penny? Was I so cheap I picked up the penny? Did I put it in my pocket? Or spend it right away? Can you still buy anything for a penny? Is this 1963? Someone told me it is 50 years later. But is she reliable? Did she carry a bag of celery in her arms? How many pennies do you need so you can buy an Archie comic? Or buy a Dodge Dart? Would the amount of pennies needed to buy a Dodge Dart fit in a Dodge Dart? How many Dodge Darts can you fit in a phone booth? Is that a stupid question? Am I a cheap bastard for picking up a penny? You know what it does to my lower back, picking up a penny? Have you heard of hospitals? Ever see a hospital? See all those people with oxygen tanks smoking cigarettes by the hospital door? Do you have any cigarettes? Would a penny change your mind? Thanks. Let me go back to, let's go to I cut my finger. What do I have here in this one marked off? Oh, yeah. So, if you're a poet who publishes in journals, you have the agony of having to send your poems out to magazines and waiting for your rejection slip. And this is what that's about. It's called Submission, which is a pun, that title. I'm going to sleep and I'm praying that my poem will appear in Unhappy Potato Quarterly. Lord, let the editorial board of Unhappy Potato Quarterly choose my poem for inclusion in its delicate writerly pages. When I wake up in the morning, let the editorial board, oh Lord, let the editorial board of Unhappy Potato Quarterly be standing at the foot of my bed, looking fondly upon me, upon my tousled gray hair, holding my poem in their delicate writerly fingers. Let the editor emeritus of Unhappy Potato Quarterly say to me as I lie beneath my threadbare covers, where only moments ago I was sleeping my usual miserable, fitful sleep, this poem, Stuart, this poem accompanied by a cover letter threatening suicide if we reject this poem, is a poem we will publish. It will waltz alongside the other poems we will publish, only to keep your poem company, because we cannot issue an issue of Unhappy Potato Quarterly containing only one poem, even if it is the only poem deserving of publication. And I rise from my sheets, hover over my bed, equipped now with enough eyes to meet the eyes of every member of the Unhappy Potato Quarterly editorial board, including the intern. And then I realize that potatoes have eyes too, and now I have so many eyes, and they're all their eyes, including the eyes of the intern and the eyes of the spider dangling from my ceiling, having just laid 1,000 eggs beneath the flesh of my cheek just below my left eye. And eyes are slimy, spherical things that watch you wherever you go, and I drift into my closet where I cower in a heap of jackets that no longer fit me. I hear rustling in my bedroom, my mattress being shredded, the lamp hurled to the floor. I try to disown my poem, but it clings to me like a leech, sucks my blood. I am becoming weak. Oh, reader, so much more clever than me. Send for help. Okay, thanks. I asked Rico yesterday how long to read. He says 20 to 30. I didn't remember if it was minutes or hours. So we're gonna feel really good by tomorrow afternoon as I read my last poem. Okay, let's see. Rosofsky. No, let's not go to that one. Let's go to A Sparrow Came Down Resplendent. This was a book of mostly very personal poems, which is unusual for me. Well, in a way, they were transparently personal, and. I was so disgusted with myself when we published it that at the launch I stood out in front wearing a sign saying, boycott Stuart Ross, commercial sellout. But anyway, but it's funny, you write something you think's commercial sellout and it does as crappy as all the other books. There you go. De Havilland. So this is another story about North York where I grew up. There was a little used bookstore I went to when I was a kid called De Havilland. It was the first bookstore, probably the first used bookstore I ever was in. I have walked a mile south, and I bought a kosher egg roll at a store called Regina's, and I bought it from Regina, and I have walked a few doors west. This is Wilmington and Shepherd, where I once got called a dirty Jew. I enter another store, and it is not Pinky's Chinese Food, and it is not Paradise Pizza. I am eating my egg roll. Plus, did I mention I bought a potato latka? I am eating that too. I am in De Havilland bookstore, and the smell of moldy books fills my nostrils, and I smell Charlie Brown books and Hardy Boys books, and I smell a book from the TV show Rat Patrol, and I smell a book by Ogden Nash. It smells like poetry. The prices are scribbled across the covers in black grease pencil, 45 cents, 75 cents, 15 cents, and the books are stacked all around me. Everywhere I look, there are paperbacks. I buy a Mad book and Rat Patrol, and the old man takes my dollar, and his wife comes out from back room and gives me a tired smile and asks me if I found some good ones today. I hand her the books, and she nods at the covers and puts the books in a paper bag, and my fingers are greasy from the latka, and I step out onto the sidewalk. South of Shepherd are the Christians, and back north are the Jews, and I walk north until I get to Searle, and I go knock on Murray Nightingale's door. Everyone who lives in Murray's house has red hair, but no one answers the door. And on Brighton is Eric Cohen, and on Acton is Mark Woolstadt, and on Combe is Randy Sinyakov, and Sheldon Teicher is somewhere, and Hetty Cohen, and Debbie Burke, and Alan Wolfe too. But I head straight home past the Beth Emeth Synagogue, where someday I will have my bar mitzvah, and Rabbi Kelman has red hair too, and there is Wilmington Park, and there is Wilmington Public School, and there is Bathurst Manor Plaza, where my mother will kill a neo-Nazi in a novel I will write 40 years later. And soon I am at 179 Panhill, up in my room, on my back on my bed, and I spill the books out of the paper bag right onto my chest, and the truth is, I will never read the Rat Patrol book, but I read The Mad, and next week I'll go back for the Ogden Nash. The smell of fried macaroni and cheese wafts up from the kitchen. I won't eat it unless it's fried. My grandfather is 2 floors down at his Singer sewing machine. His foot pumps the cast iron treadle. His veins are made of thread. There's no better way to cheer up an audience of people who come to a poetry reading, but to read a poem about one's own death. I shall therefore proceed to do so. Research. Actually, this book was, Paul Vermeer, a very fine poet, was the editor of this book, and he really challenged me a lot. He did not want me to end the book with this poem, because he thought it was too depressing. And the poem that he wanted me to start with, I thought was too depressing, but he won that argument, and I won the other argument. And so it starts off with a poem that I didn't want it to, and it ends off with a poem my editor didn't want it to. I don't know, just a little insight into what it's like to work with an editor. Research. This poem required no research. When facts were called for, I invented them. When was the dog painting made? It was made in 1932. Who made it? It was made by a monk named Brother Owen J. Who was the first person to walk on the moon? Florence Nightingale. And second was Winston Church Mountain. Poetry is not hard. Anyone can write it. You're a poet and you don't know it. I never get tired of people saying that. My dog looked at the painting of the dog I had just hung on the wall. I recognize the artist's work, she said. That would have been painted by Thomas Edison while he sat in the electric chair shortly before his execution for the murder of Man Ray. I asked my dog what Edison's last meal was. A big, juicy deer leg torn from some roadkill on Highway 6 just outside of New Denver, British Columbia, she responded. I am on my deathbed and my dog sits in a chair by my side. Who will give you treats, I asked her. Who will walk you? She held my hand in her 2 front paws and looked into my eyes. Her own eyes were cloudy now. She was an all-purpose dog. Worry not about me, she replied. I will find my way and I will never forget you. Just then, the sun shouted through the window, I am gone. And then it was dark. I could see neither my dog nor my dog painting, but I could hear my dog breathe. Dogs breathe through gills located just behind their ears. Their ears were invented in 1752 by Xenakis Metastasis. The room is becoming cold. A June bug is buzzing against the window. My name was Stuart Ross. Thanks. So I'm not going to finish with that poem because that would be so depressing. I'm going to read a few more poems, though, I think, before I fill up my 30 hours. Yeah, there's another poem about my dog, in a way. My dog, Lily. I had a dog named Lily, who I loved. This is also about this guy. I worked for one of those weekly entertainment magazines in Toronto, and the big publisher boss was just a complete jerk. So it starts off about that, and then it moves into my love of Lily. He, a poetics. He put donuts on the table, a box of them. He was making some point. You're all donuts in a box. If you could choose only one donut, why do donuts have holes in them? I don't remember his point, but he was making a point in the name of team building. We all hated him. He could not buy us off with donuts or with philosophy built around the existential hole in the middle of a donut. He hated us too. I wanted to phone him up wherever he is now and tell him his fucking donuts made no impression on me beyond the fact that he put a box of them on the table. I hope he has failed in everything in his life. I hope he is estranged from his family. I hope he is walking up and down the subway cars holding out boxes of donuts donuts to people who don't give a shit what his donuts mean. I hope his faith in capitalism has collapsed. I am walking my dog because it is 21 degrees below zero Celsius, and because it has snowed and the people of my little town have dumped salt on the sidewalks, even though there are more dogs in this town than there are humans. I have put little rubber boots on my dog. The name of my dog is Lily. We found her at a rescue in Cornwall, Ontario, near the Quebec border. They called her Lily there, even though her papers say her name is Croquette. She is of French-Canadian origin. The heater in my car isn't working. I just get cold air when I turn it on. It is very hard to make friends in a small town. There are 8 pizza places here, but no Indian food. Like me, Lily doesn't like donuts or the lessons they might teach us. A lot of poets think it is important to write poems that are about issues. They judge poems by the stance the poem takes on issues. Lily and I decide whether we like a poem just by its tone and the words it uses, the images, the juxtapositions. We don't really care what the poem means. If Lily doesn't wear those little rubber boots, they're actually more like tiny balloons, then she will walk for a bit and suddenly will lift a paw and look up at me with this helpless look. She will walk on only 3 paws. I pick her up and gather her into the warmth of my jacket-covered arms, and I pull her close to my body. Things have really changed since I was a child. Back then, dogs roamed free. When they'd been out for a while, you'd open your door and you'd call them. Soon they would arrive on the porch. They would put down their little briefcases and fold their glasses into their glasses case. Back then, there was only one kind of donut. Oscar Williams edited all the poetry anthologies. You would watch the black and white TV from a motel room and see a man jump around on the moon. Every good poem, according to Lily, ends with the word moon. Okay, I think I'm going to read 2 more poems. 2 more poems. Okay, here we go. Whatever you desire. No, that one's so depressing too. Let's skip that one. I'm making myself sad. Okay, let's go to this book. This book from like 1999, when I wrote my last good poem. Okay, let's do this one. I'm going to do 2 more, and they're going to be from this book. And one of them is about a dog again. God, there's a lot of dogs in my poems. I have a poem about Moncton. I was just talking about Moncton with, was that you? Were we talking about Moncton yesterday? Yeah. Okay, really quick Moncton poem is a bonus before I read the last 2 poems. Autumn, Moncton, because it's autumn, so we should hear this. The leaves turn red now, and then they fall off. It is a long journey to the ground for them. See those there among the small stones? They are resting. When they get their energy back, they will fly through the woods. I just wanted you to know that I could write a poignant poem. Poodles on pedestals. I turned right instead of left as I left Papa Madonna Donut Paradise, a green parakeet nipping at my heels, pecking, peckish. It is because I did not know my right from left, never have my up from down neither, always been useless at this like at everything else, that I wound up auto-misnavigating, panicking, stumbling through an unmarked door off an unmarked alley that smelled like rotting cartographers. And there did I behold a sight more unpoodly than I had ever beheld, a hallway stretched forever before me, and up one side and down the other, or up that side and down this one, poodles of every size and shape perched on marble pedestals. These were not those poodles you see at pie-eating contests or thumbing rides on desert highways. These were that other kind, the poodles our parents warned us about, sniffing, lascivious, quivering, commanding. I read the little nameplate on each pedestal: Conrad, Verity, Lozenge, Cordera, Prince Happy Happy, Felix, Falconer, Pinky, Sports Page, Parky Ralphie of Russell Hill Road, Schlepp, Pol Pot, Montgomery Clift, Norman, Veronica, and another Norman. They said something to me about rhyming couplets that didn't rhyme, about my grandpa and when Rufus got run over, about the end of capitalism when everything would be lowercase. Where do you get it? End of capitalism, everything would be lowercase. That is... I used to be smart like that. About that I should be more careful how human I try to be. I nodded and shook every one of their paws. Did I already tell you this? I shook all their paws, by which I mean one each, one paw on each dog, not all 4. So later after brunch, I mean a bunch of other stuff. On my way home, a boy on the bus wore a black bow tie and pale green name tag, Elder Twitchell. Imagine a tornado sucks him out the window and into the sky. Imagine him dead. Imagine a panel of celestial poodles decides his fate. The fear that once consumed me, that clutched my guts as I tried to sleep, was sucked out the window in his place. And this is the last poem. And I'm still within 30 hours. I mean, it's still within 30 minutes even. So I'm sorry that I'm taking advantage. When you're a poet, you get so rare. The opportunities to read for more than 10 or 15 minutes are so rare. I was ecstatic when I heard I could read up to 30 minutes, and I've taken advantage of it. Thanks for your patience. Home shopping. Jim, did you used to watch those home shopping things late at night? And yeah, okay. My aunt, when she died, they found like zillions of like those grills named after that. Which one? George Foreman grills and all kind of thing. In this city where I was once in love, transcendentally so, deliriously so, such that my friends were concerned about me, in this city, not my own, where every bar and cafe is a landmark, every park bench, every broken tree branch, every pocket of air we once passed through, in this city where once our lips met so tentatively, where we gazed endlessly and stupidly into one another's eyes, where we embraced with a rapturous fear and desperation, in this city, in this tiny room, in this dark night, in this late, late hour, my face absorbs the glow of the television, the flickering dance of images, and I watch the numbers flash upon the screen, the numbers and instructions and conditions, and I command my arm to command my hand to command my fingers in such a tedious hierarchy, the channels you must go through for such a simple act, to dial those numbers, and my fingers obey, stumbling tiredly on the plastic numbers on the telephone, a telephone that sends signals through cables that once carried yearning declarations of love and murmurs uttered through quiet tears of relief and bliss. And I say into the phone, I open my mouth and say here in the dark isolation of the middle of the night in this once magical city, yes, I would like the Salad Spinner 2000. I say, please send me the deluxe toilet splatter shield. I just saw it on TV. I say, I want the 4 CD set of best loved songs of terminal illness and the accompanying collection of posthumously penned melodies of Mantovani. I practically bark into the phone, I want it now, the Arnold Palmer hair restoration kit. I can barely wait, I murmur in a voice firm but passionate. I'm lying on my sofa and it came to me through my television like an angel of mercy, the super egg squarer. I want to make my egg square, send it immediately, and include the bonus combination rice fluffer and ceiling decobwebber, but only if I order now, right this minute. This offer will not be repeated. Operators are standing by. And I put down the phone through an intricate series of neural commands of the physiological details of which can be acquired elsewhere. It's beyond the scope of my concern and responsibility. And I pull my knees to my chest and close my eyes, and the sounds of the television wash over my ears, and I can feel its luminescent paint my face. And I wait and I sleep and wait 4 to 6 weeks in this tiny room in the city where once I knew with a visceral certainty the meaning of love, the exquisite, irreversible flutterings of the heart. And outside, beyond these walls, people fall and get up. Buses screech to a halt, governments collapse, dogs are neutered, dead leaves are whipped up by the cold wind, a child blows out her birthday candles, and eventually, inevitably, my doorbell rings or there's a knock at the door. The exact nature of the technology is beyond the range of my knowledge, and men in caps and uniforms march in and construct a tower of boxes. Gradually, over days and weeks and months, more and more boxes accumulate, and I lie on my side on the sofa in front of the television. I know that I am on the right track, that I am healing, that salvation lies in my ever-accumulating acquisitions delivered to me from warehouses across the continent. I am in a city where I had known a love that had transformed my very biology, rearranged the synapses of my brain, reshaped and renamed every organ in my gut, made me dizzy and made me skinny. But now I am in control, and from the sofa headquarters of my inert body, my atrophying limbs, my glowing angel's visage, I make things come to me box after box after box, hefted by identical men in identical caps and uniforms, and each box is some essential nutrient sapped from my branches, oil for my generator, and I feel myself heal, gradually heal, and lest I be dislodged, I clutch the edges of this sofa in this tiny room, slapped onto one molecule of this huge, wobbling sphere, hurtling relentlessly through an endless expanse of black lit only by stars. Thanks very much.